Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about resilience, keeping that good old resilience as we scale entrepreneurs. We know this is definitely a big subject. And today, I have an amazing guest, Malcolm Grissom. And Malcolm Grissom is affectionately known as the Stand-up C.E.O, as a team building and employee engagement expert. Malcolm is an award-winning actor, comedian, international speaker, and best-selling author. He masterfully blends humor, improv, and business acumen to enhance team dynamics and profitability. As a certified laughter leader, he leverages the power of positive psychology and his social work background to create engaging, results-driven experiences. Whether inspiring executives, strengthening teams, or energizing audiences, Malcolm's unique approach fosters connection, creativity, and success. His ability to transform corporate culture into humor and insights makes him a sought-after speaker and consultant. Welcome, Malcolm. Very excited to have you here.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you, Elisa. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love what
Definitely.
you do, bringing in humor to the culture. I feel like I could have used a lot of that when I was working in corporate.
Yes, yes.
It all got
That's
so
exactly
serious.
why I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me, yeah, tell us about, how you got into this field of work and why you're so passionate about it.
Well, it actually started with, I think it starts with our personal journey, as do most. Um, so I started off, I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I came out of the womb. I was actually born on stage. I was born on the back seat of a sports car in front of my entire neighborhood. They were watching the whole scene
Wow.
while I was born. And so, I came out, I like to say I came out singing right away, songs from Wicked, and let it snow, but no, I didn't. But I did come out, and I was the center of attention uh, in my neighborhood, and that led me to acting, and of course, I started starring in my first play when I was 7 years old, and I was acting, and I was funny, and everyone loved me, and then when I was 9, I had a virus known as a Ray's syndrome, and
Hmm.
that took away my ability to walk and talk.
Oh, wow.
And I've had to relearn that and relearn how to function despite the brain damage, the permanent brain damage. And laughter and play was a great, that it played a great um, part in my recuperating and my continuing to find new ways to keep going and to stay resilient and to stay the course and to find new courses. Um, and I, I've had a career as a career counselor and
Mm.
working for the state of California as a career counselor. And within that work and seeing that, the average person back, this was back a couple of years ago, the average person maybe spend 90,000 hours of their lifetime working. Well, now it's probably more up to like 110 thousand hours in their
Ugh,
lifetime working.
that's a
Yeah.
lot. As entrepreneurs probably do even more, I would suggest.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, of course. And again, I'm just talking the average person,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not the person that works for themselves or that has their own business. They spend a lot more time, and it seems to me that it is very unfortunate that we spend so much time and we get into this mindset of, it's not professional to play. It's not professional
Mm,
to add humor, and humor, a lot of people see humor as jokes and joke telling, and therefore it's not professional to do that. And work and humor don't necessarily mix. And that is why I focus primarily on, well, the business I have right now focuses primarily on corporate work and bringing the idea to corporate America that laughter and humor is not just a good thing to have at work. It is essential to establishing a productive and cohesive atmosphere.
mm, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that yeah, so like, me, I started in corporate right away. I was like my first job in big
Hmm.
corporation, and that was very much it. It was like serious at the beginning. Like, it was like, yeah, it was
Yep, this is
micromanaged and
serious.
serious.
Got
And
to
then
be
it kind of
serious.
got, and like things kind of changed a little bit where like, because I lived in Europe for a bit, so they're a bit more relaxed with all of that. Like, it's not the American culture way of working there at all. People are allowed to take care of themselves more, and so I found more humor there, and it was more multicultural as well. And that's kind of when I noticed that humor started to come into my workplace. And then working in software development, um there was also humor in that as well. I don't know. Yeah, I just kind of, it was good that I found it kind of started to relax a little bit, but I still felt like because of that first job that I had, that I worked there for 5 years, it was kind of instilled in me like, oh no, that's not professional. Like all these things, like, I was given these very specific guardrails that were like, this is the box you need to fit in to be professional. And so it was kind of always hard to do that. And then as an entrepreneur now, we can kind of do whatever we want, really. Like, it's all a thing about like being yourself and all these kinds of things. And so I still sometimes find that like, oh, but I like, and I see myself putting myself in the box. And I'm like, I don't
Hmm.
have to be here. I can be outside. And I see other people and they're being funny and they're doing all these things. And I'm like, I find myself like drawn to them. I was gonna say envious, but I don't find myself envious, because then I'm like, oh yeah, but I could do that, and I can give myself the permission by seeing them bringing in humor. And so I think that's so awesome, that I think that part of a piece of what you do, maybe without you realizing it or not, is that you're giving people permission to be funny, when maybe
Right,
we were told not to be. Yeah,
right. Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So talking about the, just sort of dipping into the whole authentic thing, and I don't know how you've noticed this, but as we scale our businesses, how do you think that we can really remain authentic and in alignment with our integrity as we grow or work with people who are, really scaling? I guess even in corporations too, people are climbing up the ladder. Um, yeah, how do you think that we can remain authentic and in alignment?
Well, it all comes down to, and this is really the same, my same basic overall stance on resilience too, is it really comes down to focusing on your why. You focus on your why and why you are doing it. And then um, adding a lot of mindfulness into this is, uh, for instance, as business owners, uh, we often, very often think about the past. We very often think about the future. And, in clients, for instance, how are we going to get more clients? What do we need to do to get more clients? Do we need to change our marketing? How are we going to change our marketing? And it's very important to remain authentic. It's very important to come back to thinking about our why, and adding the why to play. So
Mm.
when we talk about humor, when a lot of people talk about humor, they talk about humor as a response.
Mm.
And most people think of humor, they think of comedy. Humor and comedy, they think of the two and as one and the same. And yes, they are similar, but um, and actually, comedy is part of what humor is. But
Mhm.
humor is so much bigger. Think of humor as a tree, like a big family tree. And let's call this family tree the humor tree. And the humor tree has several different branches. One branch is comedy. Comedy is a man-made way to invoke laughter,
Right.
a man-made way to evoke play. Hu- um, but another branch of humor is play and laughter.
Hmm.
And laughter, well, actually, play, let's say play, is something that we're all born with. We're all born with that.
Hmm.
And it's very easy to let society, um, beat the playfulness out of us. And I'm using the term beat. I'm sorry, I can't really think of another term right now.
No, but yeah, I think
But
it brings the point at all. Yeah, we totally sort of get, yeah, it does.
yeah,
I think it gets
yeah,
taken away.
let
Yeah.
it drain us,
Hmm.
and take us away from play, and that play is very authentic, right? So this
Yeah.
goes back to authenticity too, is
Right.
not only thinking about the why, but um thinking, and again, staying in the moment, thinking in the moment, right? So not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, thinking about this very moment. So why are we in this very moment? And along with that is also, how can we play in this moment? How can we, and what does play in this moment, what does that look like for us in this particular moment? And being true to that. So committing to playing, however that looks like to you in this particular moment. So staying in the moment, thinking about why are you doing this? And how can you play in this moment? Being committed to all three of those things, that is how I believe you can be the most authentic in that moment. And if you bring that authenticity, that if you bring that mindset along with you, with the structure that you are trying to create in your business, that's how you can be authentic.
Mm, I love that. Yeah. And as you were talking, like I was thinking about, um, like as we scale, we grow our teams, we get more people, and and like how do we interact with them? And again, kind of like I was saying before, it's like sometimes people think that they have to, play a specific role or act a certain way in that role. But you can very much as a manager or CEO or with people in your team, you can very much do exactly everything that you were just saying. I was thinking about an assistant of mine, and she's always like laughing and saying all this stuff. And so we just it's like the way that we interact is very like casual, and there's lots of humor and there's lots of laughter, and I think that we both can very much be our authentic selves, because it's not like I don't have some superiority complex where I'm like I'm above you and you're here, blah blah blah. But we'll have a meeting and be like, okay, like this is what we need to do, like let's figure this out together, like how do you think we can solve this? And it's almost more like a partnership, even though she is within my team and I'm paying her. um and through that, I love how with her, I feel very much I can be super authentic. And so we figure things out. I'm like, whoa, did you see that? I'm like, did that just happen? I'm like, what is this thing? And we just kind of like look at stuff and do it in a very playful way to brainstorm and figure things out. Because I think when you're in that state, your stress levels are down and you can actually think more clearly and brainstorm really well together. Um, so I was just thinking about that yeah, like as you scale, you can very much bring that into your management style and how you work with people. And I think that really makes for an amazing culture.
Exactly. And it's also you mentioned a couple of things there that I wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
So scaling, and you mentioned that people have different roles. And so these are story, and there are stories. We see the thing about I'm sorry, but I'm getting caught up with my words today. But people have, when you have a structure, um, and you have a hierarchy, and people have different roles, like you are the operations manager, you are someone, you, meaning this person, is someone that works for the operations manager as, say, an assistant, right? You are the assistant. And then there are these stories that we make up in our head of here's what the operations manager's role is supposed to look like, here's what the assistant's role is supposed to look like. And right, and along with these stories comes all the status um
Behaviors.
and behaviors, exactly, and these expected behaviors.
Hmm.
And that's where we start to lose play. That's where we lose authenticity. That's where we lose um, being in the moment, because now we are in the story rather than in the moment. So in that, like you were describing this relationship that you had with this coworker who maybe, who's actually your subordinate, but a coworker, right? A colleague,
Hmm.
and you are able to play because you get rid of the traditional stories. You're in the moment. You are Elisa and a person A, right? In this very moment, you're sharing this moment together. You're being authentic in this moment because you're finding ways to play. Um, you're finding ways to be humorous and still be productive, but that is how you scale. So that basically keeping that and you're always, when you scale and you get bigger as a company, you're going to lose those relationships. You'll lose sight of those.
Mm.
That is just a part of growth. That's part of the growth process. The key, though, to being resilient, to coming back to that authenticity, to coming back to that, is to continue reminding yourself, you know, break out of the story. And where, that's another way where humor, and now we're talking about the comedy part of humor, is so important because one of the basis of comedy and joke writing is surprise, and it's the opposite. That's a very, very basic part of joke writing, is the opposite, right? So take your average joke. It starts with the setup, you know. Um, my dad was my dad passed away quietly in his sleep, but the kids on the bus were terrified, right? So you have your setup is your you're telling a story, and then the punchline is a different story. So your
Mm.
dad was not in bed, asleep in bed, which is what everybody thought in the setup. Your dad was driving a bus when he fell asleep and died peacefully, right? So here's where we take that same concept and break people out of the story. So yes,
Mm.
we're building, and we lose sight of the relationships. We lose sight of being in the moment. We lose sight of these things. And so a great way to wake people up for a second is to jolt them with something, with the unexpected, with comedy, right? With comedy, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, because comedy comes from the unexpected. And that wakes people up. And so now they can get back to these um, relationships, this authenticity, this play, right?
Yeah.
The why, they can get back to all of these things. I think that
And
was
I think that that's a really good like place of resilience too, right? So when things are kind of getting tough, or maybe you've had a bad year, or something, in your business is maybe going wrong and you want to stay resilient, I think that kind of can break it as well. Like you were saying,
right.
right? If you can bring comedy into it and you can maybe like touch on those resilient, that's how you can stay resilient, is through play and humor, and that really shifts your energy, which will kind of raise your frequency in order to be more resilient, to keep going.
Say,
Feeling that.
exactly, exactly. It's a in that moment it is a shift. It's that's what you need to shift the whole frequency exactly. And then um rebuild, tell a different story, create different relationships then. Um I utilize a lot of improvisation, and in fact in team building and employee engagement, uh, that is the biggest tool that I use, that I utilize to do that, because when it is not, you're bringing up laughter, but authentic laughter. You're not jokes. It's not about jokes. It's about creativity. It's about um, learning to refocus the brain, right? And that's what improv does. And that's why I use it. And it does that. It creates that shift, I
Mm,
guess, that shift, where now you can look at things differently. You can create another different story. You can be like your subordinate, can then you can change status. You can play with status, right?
hmm.
And then that becomes much more of a collaborate. col- I cannot speak
Collaborative.
this. Thank you very much. Collaborative relationship.
Yeah. And I think that that also helps with resiliency. If you have a really supportive structure and you have good collaborative relationships in your organization or in your business, that'll help your business, you and your business, to be more resilient and stay around for the long
Yes,
haul. Yeah. Yeah.
very much so.
All
Very
entirely
much so.
intertwined. Amazing. Um, well, we only got a few minutes left, but do you have any sort of like tip or any? I guess we kind of talked about a lot of the stuff about being resilient, but did you have anything else about resiliency that you wanted to share?
Um, about resilience, not necessarily, well, yes, do the hard stuff. Don't be afraid to do the hard stuff,
Mm.
right? So one of my most one of the best quotes that I tell myself every day, I use this as one of my affirmations, is today I'm going to do what others won't. So tomorrow I can do what others can't.
Mm.
So do the hard stuff. Don't be afraid to do the hard stuff. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. In fact, make mistakes. Celebrate your mistakes. That's very important to resilience, is celebrating your mistakes, because mistakes are true gifts. They really are gifts.
Yeah,
We cannot learn without mistakes.
absolutely.
So celebrate your mistakes and don't be afraid to do the hard stuff.
I love that. Thank you. And something that keeps on popping up in my head throughout our conversation here is like the ability to laugh at yourself as well, right? So if you do make a mistake or do something silly or forget something or whatever, can you bring that side of humor into it as well? Where, you're not like, yeah, you just kind of like laugh at yourself, like, oh, that was like, oh, made a mistake. Oh, yeah, well, that's not going to work, is it? If I put this over here, and you can kind of bring humor into that as well and make those mistakes or whatever, lighter. um and I think that if you practice that with like the small little mistakes that you make, and like the lessons you can learn from that and bring humor into that, then that kind of starts to build the muscle of being able to do that. And so, and then, the bigger sort of failures may feel lighter as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for this conversation, Malcolm. How can our listeners find you online?
Well, they can always go to my website, malcolmgrissom.com, and they could email me. I actually, all of my contact information's right there on my website. You can email me, you can call me, you can send me smoke signals. You can anyway, you can um you know what it's one of those days I can't really, I'm not really focused. I try to be focused, but I'm not.
It's all good. It's all good. That's why we
And
were
I
having a
love those
conversation. So
days.
it's all good.
Yes, yes. I love those days because you gotta keep pushing, gotta keep going.
And I think everything, works out anyway because this was fabulous. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom about bringing humor because I really do think it is so super important for our lives and for our businesses and for our relationships and for our resiliency. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Elise. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.